Okay, the time has come. I'm so excited about this. We have an Amazon dress that we ordered right here. We purchased this dress. This is the listing. That listing photo is actually a copyrighted image from a designer named Justin Alexander, and we are also going to be opening up that dress and looking at the differences between the two. I think let's start with the designer dress to get a baseline, as that is the photo that's presented not only for the designer dress, but also for this Amazon dupe. We had talked to Justin about making this video and asked him if we could borrow one of their dresses for it, and they happily sent it over. Like within the hour, they had already shipped it off and it arrived within about 2 days. It was so quick, and they are so kind for sending this to us and letting us borrow it. They have a note in here. And they took care of return shipping. That is seriously so kind. Another thing that I have to say about them is I have never seen a brand offer to replace a bride's dress. We do alterations. One of my brides who purchased this Amazon dress, they hopped on and they were like, hey, like she was intending to buy our dress. Obviously the picture was stolen and she ended up buying a dupe or a counterfeit dress. Dupe is a very kind word for it. It's a they just stole photos. It's not anywhere near the same dress. And they offered to send her the dress that she was intending to get, which is their dress. They sent us a letter. This is so sweet. Rachel, thank you for working with us to shed a light on a darker part of this incredible industry we love so much. Please know we appreciate the work you do immensely, as alterations are such a crucial step in a bride's journey. Sincerely, Justin. That's literally written, I'm gonna keep this forever. That's a nice card too. It was very generous of them to send this our way. I'm gonna set these aside and we can pull out the dress. Wow. The detail and the structure in it is really beautiful. Let's pull out the Amazon dress first, and I'll probably go and give them a steam, because you can see on the bottom of this dress, it just got a little munched from shipping, which is very normal. Okay, let's open up the Amazon dress. First of all, it's in a package that's probably 1/4 the size, but it's also coming from overseas, and so they just try to package it as small as possible to cut down on shipping, most likely. As I've already seen this dress, I know what this looks like. But the thing that's frustrating about it is that if they were just straightforward with brides, they just posted pictures of the actual dress that they were getting, they would still sell them and they would get far less returns. Like they'd probably get more sales, less returns. It would be way better for them. I don't know why they don't just do that, because like the dresses are very inexpensive and it shows in the quality of the dress. But also, some people don't care for a very high quality designer gown. Some people are very budget oriented and budget friendly. If they just did that, that would be way smarter of them. It is double wrapped, that's nice. And this is the Amazon dupe. It's actually like more similar in style to the dress than I thought it was, but it's just very clear that there's not any structure in this. Like this gown I can completely crunch and collapse because there's no boning in it. The Justin Alexander dress has many lines of boning in it, which is gonna give really good structure and support on the bust. So like I said, we will do a side-by-side of the two, but I'm gonna go ahead and give them both a steam, and we can take a look at the very intricate differences in the gowns. This is the Justin Alexander. It is very full in the skirt. It's gorgeous. It has many layers, you can tell. This dress has 2 layers of tulle with lace applique on it, after which we'll hit the sparkle layer. This sparkle layer has a regular sparkle on it, meaning there's different sizes of sparkle on it. All of these details that I pointed out, adding to the depth of the skirt and adding to like a perceived fullness. The volume itself, it is a very full skirt anyway, but having that depth added to it makes it look even fuller, even richer. And then you hit your lining under here. This dress comes in several colorways, so that means that the lining and this tulle piece would change colors. And then you have layers of crinoline under here with the lining color as well. So this is gonna help a lot with that fullness. Oh, there's 2 layers of crinoline. That helps a lot with the fullness of the skirt and keeping it setting out. The lace on the gown is really good quality, and it's also beaded lace. So some of the appliques are not beaded, some of the appliques are beaded. And you'll also note that on this Justin Alexander dress, all of the lace is mirrored and symmetrical. So from side to side, it looks exactly the same, which gives it a very finished and polished look. Is that this dress has a lot of boning and a lot of structure in the bodice. So there's lines of boning here, lines of boning directly over the bust. Next one is in this side bust right here, and then in the side seam. Then we also have ones in the back princess seams. The bodice of this dress has all these, you can call them pleat, ruching, whatever it is you'd like to call them. It has this volume of tulle that's lapped over itself to, again, give really good dimension to the dress. And the straps that they have on here are very dainty and densely beaded with really high quality beads. This dress feels really good. It fits perfect. feels good, feels structured and secure, and also just feels like really good quality. It feels so nice. This is the Amazon Dupe. You can already tell that there's a lot less volume in the skirt. It has a similar amount of layers, but the volume that's coming and spliced into the skirt isn't very comparable to the Justin Alexander dress. I'll show you the train. The train is a similar length, but again, not the same amount of volume in the skirt. This dress has one layer of tulle with applique lace on it. The secondary layer is going to jump straight to the sparkle tulle. The sparkle tulle on this gown is very regular and gives a nice little bit of sparkle, but doesn't really create any depth to the dress. After that sparkle layer, you're gonna have 2 more layers of tulle, and then you're going to have the lining layer. Underneath the lining layer is nothing else, and so you're not gonna have a ton of poof or drama coming from underneath the dress because there are no crinoline layers to kind of hold the shape of the dress out, something you could potentially add after. You can see that the necklines, though they tried to make them fairly similar, you know, with the plunge, this one does come much more straight across, whereas the Justin Alexander has a little bit better shape to it. This dress also doesn't have any structure to it, and so because I'm a pretty standard size 6, the dress fits pretty well, but we're definitely lacking in structure in the bodice. And having boning in a dress versus not having boning in a dress is basically like the equivalent of wearing a bra versus just a tight tank top. A tight tank top is going to keep you flat and together, but it's not going to give you lift. It's not going to give you any support. Another thing to note is that the lace on the dress does not have any beading on it. The only beading you'll find on the dress is through the straps, although there is some sequins you can see machine sewn onto the lace pieces, which does give it a little bit of a shine, a little bit of sheen, and maybe give the appearance that there's some beading there, but it's definitely cutting some corners and cutting out some quality that you would be receiving. Another unfortunate thing with this dress is that because it's white on white on white, they also chose to put a white cup into the dress, and I'll show you here. You can just see the entire circumference of where that white cup sits, which is really unideal and something that you would have to switch out for something closer to your skin tone or just fully line the bodice. Other notable things, the difference in length in all of these tulle layers is very dramatic and not very standard for manufacturer practices. I saw this dress before I saw the designer gown. I did not know that it was a Justin Alexander designer gown that they had stolen the photos from. And in my head, I was like, yeah, they might have stolen the photos, but they're not trying to recreate your dress. And then I got it and I was like, oh, it's a lot more similar than I thought. So I do think that they are trying to rip off the actual dress, which is very disheartening. Another thing that I'm seeing as I'm closer to the mirror that I have is that because I don't have any boning structure, I'm able to crunch the bodice of the dress quite a bit and create almost like a shelf and all of this rippling and whatnot. And that doesn't happen when you have boning in a dress. When you have boning in a dress, it stands so structured onto your waist that you wouldn't have the same amount of crunching. You could still bend and you could still crunch it if you wanted to, but it's going to keep these seams much stronger and make it way less likely that you're able to. So the amount of money and time that you would spend trying to make this dress look similar to what you thought that you were receiving in the photos online, you would be much better off just purchasing the designer gown. We're going to take a look at these gowns side by side, so that way I can show you these indicators of quality that are in the designer dress that are lacking in our dupe. This harsh lighting is going to simulate harsh studio lighting or any like flash photography. White and ivory, they always photograph a lot brighter. When you have everything in one tone, your details are going to blend in a lot more, like is noticeable on this Amazon dupe. On the designer gown, you can tell that they've taken a lot of time to make sure that all the detail elements are going to pop on this dress. No matter what colorway you order this dress in, you do get the same color all the way through the gown, so you are going to lose a lot of the detailing here, whereas here you have so much dimension built into the dress. We're moving up even closer because I want to show you some detail elements that are really going to be quality indicators. On this gown, you can see the top stitching on this plunging V. You shouldn't see the top stitching on here, and then you also have top stitching across the top with some seam allowance visible underneath here. On this designer gown, you have no top stitching here and you have no stitches here. So what this is the tulle layer is doubled over, so you have a little bit thicker fabric, a little bit more opacity, and no visible seam lines, which is a definite indicator of quality. The beadwork done on the appliques, we have our sequins, but then we also have 3D beads on it, which you can see. On this one, we do have some sequins on the dress, but that's the extent of what you're seeing on there. We only have sequins, we have no 3D beads on top of there, which cuts out a step and makes it a little bit cheaper and more affordable to manufacture. Another thing I want to point out is the shine and the sheen on these two laces next to one another. You can see that this lace has less of a shine to it, and this one, the whole thing is very shiny and very reflective. Typically, cheaper laces and cheaper appliques will have a little bit of a shine to it, and ones that do not are a little bit more expensive, so that's another indicator of quality. As mentioned before, this dress does have boning in it, and that's what gives you structure, and that's what actually gives this dress a better shape overall. That's what helps the waist to cinch in, that's what helps to give the bust structure, and that's what helps to give this distinctive hourglass of bust, waist, hip. And they've done a good job of trying to make you think that there is boning in here, but there is no boning. Another detail I want to take a look at is the difference in the straps. You can see on the dupe, we have one line of beading going parallel with the strap. And on this gown, we have lines of beading that run at almost like a 45-degree angle to the strap, which provides thickness and depth and a greater volume of beads, which is another indicator of quality, because that will take much more time than something like this. This is a simple straight stitch, and this is something where you have to kind of double back and recover what you've already covered, but that's gonna make it look a lot more expensive. Another quality indicator I wanna talk about is how these lace appliques along the skirt are sewn down. I'll show you the designer one first, so you know what to look for. You can't see any seams through here, any threads through here, and it's all sewn down very well. I'm gonna show you the dupe. You can see stitch lines through the whole applique, and because the stitch line is set pretty far in on the applique, you have lots of freestanding edges that are not sewn down very well. You can flip them up quite a bit. Something I want to point out as we're looking at the backside of these gowns is that the designer dress on the left here, because it has so much structure in the bodice, you can see bust, waist, hip, and you can see how that translates onto a body because this shapes very well. This is very flattering on the waistline and actually gives the body some shape, whereas this dress, because it is lacking structure, you can see its lack of structure on the hanger. It hangs pretty straight, and that is very comparable to how it hangs on the body as well. It really doesn't shape the waist at all. It doesn't do anything for the gals. It presses them down rather than lifting them up and giving them any support. One thing I'd like to point out is how the difference in construction of bodice changes the overall shape. With the designer dress on the left, you see a lot more structure. You see a very defined waistline. You see that it's snatching the body and almost minimizing the chest. Whereas on this counterfeit dress on the right, it's far less shapely. There's not as defined of a waist, and the bust, rather than being supported, is quite squished into the dress. On the designer dress on the left, you'll see great craftsmanship. Everything looks really polished and looks really put together. On the counterfeit dress on the right, you have these lines swooping up to the top of the zipper, which just indicates an ill-fitting dress and that there were probably steps skipped in the pattern making process, which builds the base for any structured gown. What this means for any potential bride is that you're going to be spending more money in alterations trying to remedy the things that the manufacturer skipped steps on in the beginning to save you cost. So while you save cost in purchasing the dress, you increase your cost in altering the dress. Another indicator of quality that I want to point out is these buttons are fairly small. These buttons are 3/8 of an inch and they're set very close together. I don't know why it is, but this is very standard for a wedding dress and this screams quality to me. Whereas on this dress, these buttons are only 1/8 of an inch bigger, putting them at 1/2 an inch, and they're set much further apart. And for whatever reason, this does not give the same illusion of quality as this does. Something else to note is that on our Justin Alexander dress, we have these button loops, which means that once you zip this up, you can loop those buttons so that it all lays flat. On our Amazon dress, we do not have any button loops to mention. That would be another indicator of quality because that's just skipping a step. You don't have to pay for the button loops. You don't have to pay for the insertion of the button loops. Makes it a lot cheaper and easier to produce. The cups on this dress are some of the nicest cups I've seen in designer gowns. They're very soft. They match the tone of the dress very well. So that way from the outside, these are going to be absolutely invisible. Whereas these cups, because they are stark white and they're not hidden under the lace very well, the edge of these is entirely visible from the outside and doesn't give a very streamless or cohesive look to the gown. On the bottom half of the zipper, you'll see on this gown, all of these outside tulle layers are sewn separate from the lining, which has the zipper inside of it. That is a huge indicator of quality because that is going to lay really nice on the body. This one has a zipper all the way down. That cuts out so many steps. You just zip it up easy breezy. This one, after you've zipped it up, you'll think, oh, you have this hole in there. But what they've done is they've sewn these snaps to keep the outer layers together. And what that allows for is that allows for your linings and your inside layers of your skirt to have a lower volume, and then it allows for your outside layers to have a higher volume, so that way your dress can flow out from the waistline. It's not stuck to your body because it's zipping it up. This is a really key detail that tells you the dress is made with quality, because that's a lot of thought and care put into that. It allows for the inside layers of your skirt to be a little bit smaller volume than the outside layers, which adds to that dimension and that depth that they've really worked on curating through the whole gown. Honestly, calling this Amazon dress a dupe is even doing the listing a disservice. It's honestly just a random photo that they stole and slapped on the dress. The similarities between the two dresses are very few and far between.